Millions of kids are getting hooked on games that reward stealing, push emotional breakdowns, and charge real money for fake progress. One former gaming executive even called them somewhat evil. This is not just entertainment anymore, it is manipulation disguised as play. Today, I am talking about the dark side of Roblox's most famous games and why I think their impact runs way deeper than people realize. Spotting the problem within viral favorites. A former Square Enix executive described Grow a Garden as somewhat evil after playing it for several hours. He explained how the game repeatedly prompts players to pay for faster growth or even to steal from other players' virtual gardens. He compared these prompts to mobile games and noted they cross close to gambling territory. The game reached a peak of around 21 million concurrent players, underlining its massive scale and impact. In Grow a Garden, the mechanics reward spending real money to accelerate progress or advance at the expense of others. This creates a loop that pressures users, often young players, into repeated purchases to keep up. The fact that stealing is built into the monetization design stood out to me as a troubling ethical choice. Steal a Brainrot, another record-breaking Roblox title, encourages players to take items from others and builds emotional attachment around unique items called Brainrots. Players can buy powerful items or abilities that give them an edge. Losing a prized Brainrot often triggers strong frustration or even meltdowns online. Casual players feel intense emotion after loss. I saw community reactions where people expressed deep misery when they lost assets. That emotional investment reminded me that design is not just about fun, it can become psychologically manipulative. Both games focus attention and spending on emotional highs and lows. Players feel compelled to chase rewards, often tied to spending Robux. The manipulation is subtle yet powerful. Child safety failures, exposed by experts. A study shared with The Guardian described how children as young as 5 were granted access to sexual content and unsupervised chats. Researchers created test accounts under controlled conditions and still discovered suggestive scenes, overheard explicit voice chats, and invitations from adults to share contact details such as Snapchat. Parents from around the world described horror stories. One father discovered that his 10-year-old son had been coached by an adult user to bypass security controls and send nude images via home devices. He said his son thought the adult was a friend after receiving virtual gifts. The experience led to trauma and therapy. Although Roblox introduced stronger parental controls and blocked under 13 users from messaging outside of games, many parents found these tools ineffective. Age verification struggled and user-generated content ratings were misleading. Children still encountered inappropriate experiences inside games, often with little oversight. I felt shocked that environments so explicit could slip past filters meant to protect children. As someone who has studied online safety policy, I believe the platform is not doing enough to shield its youngest users. Developer practices behind the scenes. Some large studios behind top Roblox games operate with troubling business ethics. Big Studios, the team behind Steal a Brainrot, reportedly acquired small indie teams and imposed highly aggressive monetization. The approach inflates spending by framing rapid progression as purchasable advantage. GameFam, the studio behind Sonic Speed Simulator, has been accused by former employees of requiring long hours and offering low pay. Allegations included crunch culture and salary cutoffs before holidays. Fans protested using the hashtag Sonic Sweatshop Simulator. GameFam later denied accusations and banned users who spoke out. It settled a National Labor Relations Board complaint and issued compensation to an employee who raised pay issues. Reports also describe how Roblox's broader business model takes significant profit shares from creators. Investigative outlets have suggested that microtransaction systems are especially exploitative toward younger creators who may see minimal earnings despite high revenues under promise. I personally find it troubling that young creators are promised success but often earn little after platform and studio takes. As an expert in digital economy, it feels like there is systemic risk in how these platforms reward or exploit developers. Real-world consequences for children and communities. Growing numbers of parents report that their children became deeply addicted to Roblox. Some children lose social balance, refusing to join family meals or go outside. When asked to stop playing, they sometimes become aggressive or shut down completely. Parents describe sleepless nights, constant worry, and seeing mood swings linked directly to time spent in gameplay. One father from Calgary told how his 10-year-old son was approached by an adult in a virtual space. The child was coached to bypass home security tools, persuaded to send nude selfies via a smart speaker, and convinced the stranger was a friend after receiving virtual gifts. That led to emotional trauma and professional counseling. Other families describe trauma after exposure to explicit messages, adult solicitations, and even direct threats inside games aimed at children aged 8 to 12. Some children reported nightmares, anxiety, or becoming afraid to log in again. Given those risks, experts and parents have called for deleting Roblox altogether. Some argue it should be legally treated not as a game but as a social media platform subject to stricter regulation. Such proposals reflect the belief that its current oversight model is insufficient. I have heard parents describe late-night crises, therapy billing, and shattered trust when their children were groomed. That level of real trauma proves this is not just virtual play. Children and communities face lasting psychological fallout. What Roblox has done, and why we are still worried. In response to rising concern, Roblox rolled out new parental controls in November 2024. Under 13 accounts were blocked from messaging others outside of in-game experiences. A broadcast-only messaging mode was enabled within games. Content labels such as minimal, mild, moderate, or restricted were introduced, replacing age guidelines. Families can now use remote management to set screen time limits, view friend lists, and control spending through linked parent accounts. The company founder stated publicly that if parents are uneasy about Roblox, they should consider keeping their children off the platform. He emphasized that the company reviews reports of bullying or grooming and will work with law enforcement if needed. Nonetheless, critics argue these changes do not go far enough. Experts warn that age verification remains superficial. Children and adults continue to bypass restrictions through fake birth dates or alternate accounts. Messaging filters are still reactive, not proactive. Bad actors find ways to communicate within unsupervised game areas. The sheer volume of millions of user-generated experiences makes true moderation almost impossible. Most alarming has been the suggestion by Roblox's chief executive officer that the platform might eventually include dating features for users aged 21 and above. This plan raised alarm because 40% of users are estimated to be under 13. Critics say the idea ignores past abuse incidents and risks reopening vulnerabilities despite promised age gates. It is frustrating to see improvements that feel incremental while foundational problems persist. As someone deeply invested in child online safety, I see a platform evolving faster than its protective frameworks. Why popularity makes these issues even more dangerous. When a platform reaches the kind of scale Roblox has, every problem becomes amplified. With over 200 million monthly active users and tens of millions playing daily, even a small percentage of issues affect huge numbers of people. Popular games like Steal a Brainrot or Grow a Garden are not just big, they are cultural phenomena among kids and teens. That makes the stakes higher. A game that promotes toxic mechanics or shady monetization does not just affect a few isolated players. It shapes habits, emotional responses, and even financial behavior across millions of young users. These players are at an age where they are still developing self-control, emotional resilience, and spending awareness. The bigger the game, the bigger the impact when something goes wrong. When I watch how these games dominate the platform, I honestly worry about what values are being taught. If stealing from someone else's virtual garden or brain rot is not only allowed but rewarded, what lesson is that sending? It is also harder for parents to intervene when the game is wildly popular. Peer pressure plays a role. If every friend in the class is playing, it is tough to be the one kid left out. That social pull makes it even more important for developers and the platform itself to act responsibly. From emotional crashes to real-life danger, Roblox's biggest titles carry more weight than they let on. What changes do you think should be made to protect players, especially kids? Tap like if you think this conversation needs more attention, subscribe if you want to keep the discussion going, and tell me what you want to see in the next one.